Welcome to the Leadership Squeeze with me, Claire Radford.
And Kareen Griffiths.
Today we are going to be talking about the Leadership Squeeze, the reason that we are here, and our findings when we have been working with leaders on all things performance, people and culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you might be thinking, oh no, not another podcast, but this one's going to be different. Honestly, I promise you.
It is. So why are we here? Why did we decide to come and do a podcast on the Leadership Squeeze?
Well, we've been having lots of conversations, haven't we, Claire, about leaders, leadership, the work, the people that we work with, some of the challenges. And I think we've started to see lots of sort of alignment in our work, but also we've been learning a lot from each other in our work as well, haven't we, with what we're seeing. So, I think this is a really great opportunity to bring some of those things that we're hearing to this space so that we can help this community, you know, the leaders and managers in organisations.
That is, I mean, the theme that we keep coming back together on is that leaders are being asked to do more. They're very time poor and they're looking for quick, practical insights on how to improve their practice and how to improve working lives for their people as well. And so that is what has led us here today, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So our first episode, I would love to hear from you on what do you think the Leadership Squeeze is? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think leaders are being squeezed. It's what's being said on the tin. Yeah. The squeeze is the fact that we only have a certain amount of time, work, capacity, and how am I going to deliver what I need to be delivered with that space? Yeah. So in my world, I'm noticing real capacity challenges in terms of how am I still going to deliver what needs to be delivered when I've only got a finite amount of time. Yeah. I've only got these tools. How can I keep delivering more when the world's spinning so fast and deliver it well?
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I'm definitely seeing the same thing. Leaders are being asked to deliver more. Growth is always on the agenda, isn't it? No matter what industry you're in. And I'm hearing about redundancies, budget cuts, having to deliver massive change programs as well as BAU. So the leaders I'm working with are exactly as you described, struggling with capacity. But also, I think one of the challenges is the skill set and the capability to lead through these modern times. And I'm a bit of a research girl. I like the data. I'm a geek, aren't I? But I always come back to some research that Gartner put out a few years ago. And they talk about the fact that 85% of managers are accidental people leaders. So these are people that didn't choose to manage people, and they certainly didn't get any training on how to do it. And yet they find themselves in these leadership positions, struggling with delivering difficult messages, leading change, giving feedback, and they don't know how to do it. So, you know, understandably, they are struggling and they're looking for support around how to manage and lead well.
Yeah. I hear you on that. And I think to add to that, I feel like when I'm working in organisations or with leaders at the moment, with all of that, they have the training and then they don't have time to even think, how do I execute it cognitively, all that well-being side of things? How can I have the clarity and keep myself well so that I can lead properly? And I'm seeing that all as a thread through everything, really.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this podcast then, we are going to be talking about our shared experiences. Yeah. What are we seeing in the workplace with the clients that we work with? Yeah. We're going to bring a bit of research and data for the people that are that way minded. And then we're going to be giving listeners some really practical takeaways, right? Yeah. Where are we getting those practical takeaways from?
I would say proven techniques, and sometimes we have that theory around that, and then there's that other side of things, like what's really worked when we have done that in organisations and with leaders, whether that be one-to-one or whether that be in our workshops, programs, whatever that may look like. So I think for me, what we've done is the fact that we've asked the audience, haven't we? Yeah. We've asked leaders in our network, we've asked those CEOs, those managers, that, and not always just at senior level, those in the middle, and we say the squeeze is there, but actually it's right across the board. we've asked them what's top of mind. And so the subjects we're going to be covering on the squeeze is going to be taking us each episode through some of those things.
Amazing. I can't wait. Exciting. Okay, so let's start with the overall picture in terms of the state of the nation, if you like, when it comes to workplace engagement. I always like to have a look at the Gallup Workplace Survey, which has come out now for 2026. And it doesn't paint a pretty picture, unsurprisingly. So we're seeing that worldwide engagement in the workplace has dropped again to 20%. So 1 in 5 people across the world are actively and positively engaged in the workplace, which sounds bad enough, but in the UK it's even worse. So on average, 10% of staff are engaged positively in the workplace at the moment. And one of the biggest drivers of that drop is the management population, because their engagement has dropped so much, which for the academics is a real surprise, because there's always been in the past this sort of management perk. Managers were always more engaged than other staff. They had additional responsibilities, additional pay, they had additional benefits, and so their engagement traditionally has been higher, whereas now it is really pulling down the national average. Why do you think that is? What are you seeing in your work that's perhaps making managers feel so much less engaged than they were before?
It's twofold, really. I think we cannot ignore the external environment. We know the external environment and the race of technology is impacting people because of the speed that leaders and managers are expected to work at. So I think we can't have the conversation without thinking about the external environment. And definitely, I was talking to a CEO when we were doing this research, and he shared that actually from his perspective, that external environment has been this lingering feel since COVID. So we had a bit of a pre-COVID and then COVID, then everybody shifted like how they worked, and then now we have this. We thought it would go away, and actually things haven't, because now we've got all the pressures of the cost of the living and everything. So I think people are having to deal with, and managers are having to deal with, that external environment a lot more than just, oh, how do I just manage my team? And actually what they're also having to think about is managing my team and them dealing with the external environment, and how is that impacting their performance. And that is something I don't think managers have thought about when they've applied for the role. Feel skilled fully to do that, and also how am I going to deliver and then coach and look after my people. It's just new, and I say new because of the speed and the external environment being so volatile.
And I think we're seeing that come through in the data as well, because also in that Gallup research, they're showing that day-to-day stress in the workplace has gone up, no doubt because of some of these external factors, and because of the squeeze, having to do more with less. And one of the other interesting things was that loneliness in work has increased as well.
Wow.
I think, again, particularly since COVID, people are working remotely, and I know we're going to have a dedicated episode all about remote working, but I think particularly for senior leaders and managers, that loneliness, not having that network of peers to talk to about your challenges, to share ideas with, is also impacting that engagement as well.
I think what's interesting about this now is this sense of our network of peers, and some people do have that and some people don't. What I'm seeing is that actually transferring what you're feeling and seeing to another leader in the same headspace or situation actually sometimes doesn't help. So it's like a different kind of loneliness, because it's like, well, I'm telling you my shared issues, shared problems, we're sharing through this, but actually, is that helping you or is it hindering you? Because just because we have a shared problem doesn't mean we're solving the problem together. It's just that this kind of emotional dumping offload piece that I kind of see. So we're transferring a different type of energy to people.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so what are we suggesting? So any listeners, predominantly we are talking to people managers, leaders at all levels of the business. If people listening are feeling that leadership squeeze, that they're being asked to do more with less, and they're struggling with perhaps stress and a lack of network, what are our 3 takeaways this week?
Yes, 3 priorities. How are we going to survive the squeeze? Well, for this episode, as we said before, it's kicking off with that. How are we going to do more with less? One of the things I put down here based on what I've seen and what I do with businesses is this prioritizing ruthlessly.
Ooh, I like that.
So you have to really be ruthless in how you do that. Asking questions like what must happen, what should happen, what can wait. I think there's another technique that you used to do, start, stop, continue, that leaders have done, and you do it in your workshops. But that, I think if you can bring that to your daily work, what do I need to start today? What do I need to stop today? What do I need to continue with today? Ruthlessly is going to help with the wood through the trees, you know.
And I'm also thinking then about not just how managers could do that for themselves, but how are they doing that for their team as well.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of the work I do, prioritization is a pandemic in itself. People are struggling with week to week, month to month, what should we be prioritizing? And so I would always ask any leader, if I went into your team meeting and I asked your staff around the table, what should you be prioritizing this month? If they can't answer me within 10 seconds and they're all aligned, then you are not doing a great job at clarifying for your team, here's our focus, here's our North Star for the next quarter, the next month. Everything else is deprioritized. Here's what you've got to focus on. Because that is a really critical role for leaders at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think leaders also need to think about, you can't carry everything. So you have to pass some of that to your people and say, what do you think you need to prioritise? So that people in your team can start to think a little bit differently, ask the right questions to you, so that there's less of this parent-child carrying everything, and like get those people equipped in your team to ask the right questions, give them the techniques, give them the template. This is what I want you to ask me. Because I think that leadership role needs to feel like, we're in a team together too. Totally. Ask me the right questions, ask me questions too, and not like it's all up to the leader to sort everything out.
That shared leadership almost in a way.
Absolutely.
Okay, love that. Great. Okay, tip number 2.
Tip number 2 is controversial.
Oh.
Can we not be celebrating burnout?
Oh God. Is that controversial?
I'm saying the word celebrate because people might go, oh, well, what do you mean celebrate? You know, we're not celebrating. We're saying it. We're saying it now like it's just an everyday sentence. Like, you know, I'm burnt out. We're burning people out. There's lots on. There's lots of work. Yeah, I'm busy. I'm busy. But that's not to be celebrated. And I think that we need to start changing the narrative on that and going, actually, that's not something I want to hear, and that's not something we want to be doing. How can we make this better for you? You know, taking that, I suppose we take it seriously, but a little bit too late. Too late down the line. So I'd say with that, stop normalising the fact that we overwork.
That's what I was just thinking, because I think often it's not even intentional, is it? But some of the subtle cues that I see leaders giving their staff is unintentionally rewarding that long hours culture, logging on at the weekend. And it's so easy, isn't it? We've all got phones and laptops now that we can be checking our work 24 hours a day if we want. And I think sometimes just very subtly, leaders are reinforcing that rather than challenging it. And even better, they could be role modelling, couldn't they? Having time where you cannot contact me as a leader feels really difficult. But it just sets such a good example. I used to have a boss. She was a great boss, and she would very visibly and clearly block out time in her calendar for stuff that wasn't work related. So like getting her hair done, picking her kids up. And she got some flack for it, some criticism, but she was absolutely clear. I want to role model this work-life blend and having some boundaries. And I just thought that was brilliant.
No, I love that, Claire. And I think that the leaders sometimes talk about that, like, yes, I'm doing this, but they're not acting, they're not actually doing that in the work. So they talk a good shop around, yes, I do take my time, or I go for a run in the morning. I'm like, well, it's great, but what about in the day? Where are those time rests in the day? Where can you show that leading by example? So I hear you with that. Can we stop rewarding the heroics?
Totally.
That's my...
Okay, nice. Okay. What else?
I think the third one is about having conversations around what capacity do you have to do this today. I don't know if we have those conversations. I don't sometimes hear leaders really help people go, this is what I've got on today. So actually, what needs to come off this list?
Oh, yes.
What needs to come off the list?
Yes.
So I think both ways, asking leaders what needs to come off my list then in order for me to do this.
Yes.
And the other way around, which is what needs to come off your list, so that it's
Yes,
both
ways.
leaders, managers, or your employees and
Absolutely.
managers. So I think for me that simple question can help us protect people.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone ask that question in my 20 years. That's always adding to the to-do list.
Yeah.
It's never taking away from.
Yeah.
So that simple flip, I think, gives both employees and leaders just real clarity on what is possible and what's not possible. It reminds me of, I read an article years ago with the founder of Spanx, the skinny pants, Sarah Blakely.
Yeah.
And she talked about, every quarter she maybe has 10 priorities, 10 balls up in the air, and she has to intentionally choose 2 balls to drop. And she says, I know I'm going to drop balls. I can't possibly do everything. But being intentional about it and telling people about it means that she can manage and still deliver on the other 8 priorities. And I really like that mindset of being intentional with what you can't get to.
Yeah,
as well.
because something's going to come off the boil. And I think that will lead us into that episode we talk about change.
Yes.
Because ultimately things are changing all the time, and we're going to park that conversation for our next episode.
Change.
But I think that sense of not saying to people, just let me know if you need anything, or let me know if there's because
so passive.
It's a really passive, and if you have got a lot going on in your mind and it's kind of equating into the way that you're sort of regulating yourself, then you'll just keep fighting that fire, because it is about performance, and people want to be looking good in the work and delivering on the work. But I think there's going to be some real honesties and truth that needs to happen in those conversations. Both sides, what's going to come off in order to do that. And I think it being intentional and that conviction of, well, what needs to come off in order to do this.
And it brings me back to the whole purpose and meaning of this show, The Leadership Squeeze. It's that real desire that I see in leaders to still drive high performance, but they don't want to kill their teams doing it. No. And so I think those are 3 great practical tips to just go, you can still hold people to account. High performance doesn't mean that it has to lead to burnout and negative emotions. But equally, it's not just about being nice to people. It's about being really clear.
And stopping people doing things extra when they don't need to be. Because once you've fed that and you keep feeding that, then people will keep feeding themselves more and more and more. Right, I'm done that. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. It's about helping break that and go, no. Yes. And actually, if someone is delivering more, then actually that shouldn't be rewarded.
Okay, nice.
Right?
So it's a bit of a shift.
Depending on how they're feeling, right?
Yes.
So it's really trying to gauge when someone is over-delivering, is that okay or not? And actually, we should be trying to protect people and going, well, actually, over-delivering doesn't help either. You know?
And I'm just thinking about why that is, because often I'm trying to help organisations achieve that growth and that high performance. So we would talk about that extraneous effort is a real positive thing. People are going over and above. But I guess the cost is the longevity and the sustainability of that overachievement. Is short-lived, isn't it? You can't sustain that.
It can be. It takes leaders to be that exceptional clarity to know how that person is operating, and if they're like, well, I'm comfortable with this, and we're not seeing anything impact them from a health, well-being, deliverables, how they're leading, how they're managing, the more how, then great, go for it, because people can do that. Not everybody, struggles. But based on the stats you shared earlier, it's just tuning in a bit more, isn't it? And going, does that look right? Does that sound right? And you've got to have the capacity to do that yourself and clear, the wood through the trees to make that happen.
Love it. Fabulous. Thank you.
Great.
Well, we will be back with another episode. We're talking about change and constant change next week. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and share with any leaders that you think in your network would benefit from this.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.